Good afternoon, members, audience. It's Monday, March 24th. We now have a quorum, and the Minnesota Education Policy Committee will now come to order. Today we have a full agenda of 7 bills. Senator Westlin, you're being well played. Thanks for being ready and willing and able. And but before you go, people often ask me, after 33 years in the classroom, what surprises. I taught American government, and they often will ask, what surprised you about this place when you got here? And my go-to answer is always the staff. The amount of people whose job it is here to make us as senators look better than maybe sometimes we need to look or are able to look. And I'm always so grateful and appreciative. And last week, this guy died. His name was John Hemingway. And no one's ever heard of this guy. He died in Scotland. He was 105 years old. And when he died, what was unique about him, he was a fighter pilot in the Royal Air Force, the RAF, during World War II at the Battle of Britain. And he's the last known survivor pilot from the Battle of Britain. And he was shot down 4 times in the Battle of Britain, and each time he found his way back up into a plane and went up there to, in some people's minds, to save the world from tyranny and fascism. And when I read the article about him, literally, and the classic quote by Winston Churchill referring to these Royal Air Force is, never in the course of human conflict has so much been owed by so many to so few. And that's what Churchill said about the Royal Air Force. And when I read that about this guy's death, I thought about the staff here. Never has so much been owed by so many to so few. So with that said, I just want to draw your attention to those of you that have been here a lot. When you look at the agenda, you'll notice all these people beneath the senators. And maybe we should start putting them above the senators. But I just want to give a shout out, maybe the last time this session, to Tristan Vogeli, Eileen Otto, Anne-Marie Lewis, Bjorn Arneson, Jenna Hofer, Ryan Majaris, Ed Cook, Olivia Anderson, Chloe Day, Roan Chafee, and Christina Schaefer, because without their work and their efforts, again, never has so much been owed by so many to so few. And so for all the people that show up here every day to make the Senate run as efficiently as possible, I just want to say thank you all. So anyways, with that said, Senator Abler.
Yeah, the Battle of Britain I've studied that quite a bit. It was a phenomenal time, and there were just so much owed to so few. Just wanted to offer a comment on this. I'm not on the Finance Committee, but the governor's budget came out. If that goes forward, and we'll be cutting 400 teachers. The compensatory pilots and all that, I don't know where we're going to find those. And that will even be more few, and that's what provoked me. But you'll be at those meetings. I won't be. Anoka doesn't have 400 teachers to cut. So in the composite of the two, what's left to cut. So, and that would be really hard. So as we make our policies to be more effective, I just wanted to put a plea there. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I just got that from the superintendent this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Abler. First up is Senator Westlin's Senate File 2019, which we will be voting on to send to Ed Finance. Senator Westlin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members. And thank you, especially Mr. Chair, for always recognizing the incredible work that both partisan and nonpartisan staff do to make us all look good. In 2023, the legislature authorized $900,000 for student-led and student-designed service learning opportunities. Over the past 2 years, these grants have been used by students all across Minnesota. 16 grantees from 10 independent school districts, 4 charter schools, and 1 educational cooperative. Students involved in the service learning projects reported increased academic performance and engagement, along with increased attendance and a stronger sense of commitment to their education and community. These projects teach students important life skills like project management, budgeting, research, and communication skills, as well as how to engage within their educational and local communities. Senate File 2019, in Section 1, makes a couple of changes, Mr. Chair. I would refer people first to line 3.12. We have modified that to say at least one goal of the service learning experience should be comprehensive achievement and civic readiness. And then primarily the biggest change will be in subdivision 3, Mr. Chair. The Commissioner of Education must award $75,000 to each to allow eligible partnerships to provide student-designed, student-led service training. The Commissioner may designate startup or leader grant categories with differentiated maximum grant dollar amounts, again, raising that to $75,000. On 4.5, 4.6, a grantee may use money awarded for new service learning initiatives or to maintain or expand service learning initiatives. And subdivision 4, line 4.9, 4.10, this adds again the comprehensive achievement and academic readiness language. And then on 4.14 to 4.16, there's a report that's due, and 4.16 indicates that should be due in each odd-numbered year. And then, of course, there's an appropriation, which is why this will be heading back to Ed Finance. The bill does tighten up some of the language and the goals for the programming, and you know, this has been a very successful program, Mr. Chair, and although, yes, we are facing some challenging budget circumstances, hopefully when we go back to Ed Finance, we'll be able to make these modifications to the amount of the grants and to try and do something in terms of awarding funding for the bill. There are testifiers. I believe my first testifier, Paula Bugan, is online. Then we have here, I believe, in person, Khalik Rogers and Shamika Hicks.
Is Paula Bugan? She is struggling with the Zoom.
Got it.
So can we go to Khalik Rogers? And then Shamika Hicks, if you're ready, come on down.
Yeah, go ahead and sit down. And then when you're done, just make sure you sign. Good to see you.
Hello, committee chair and committee members. My name is Khalik Rogers. I'm the executive director of Catalyst for Systems Change, and it's going to speak on the importance of service learning. In your packets here, you also will see that there is a brief one-page research summary as well that I would love for you to review. So overall, service learning is an educational approach combines impactful community service with instruction and reflection, enhancing the learning experience while teaching civic responsibility and strengthening local communities. Research has consistently shown that students participating in service learning have increased by Professor Andrew Furco, University of Minnesota, showing the major positive impact of service learning on academic achievement and personal growth. This one-page research summary is included with the packet of materials for this hearing. And I also want to speak from my lived experience with this as well. I'm a local St. Paul resident at the time when I was at Gordon Parks High School, where myself and a group of students seen that there was a vacant plot of land behind our high school, about 4 acres of land. And we had a plan to create a green space, but we didn't necessarily know who to connect with or what community members could be a part of this. But for a previous project I had worked on, we did a project on a mural and how graffiti could be seen as public art, depending on how you look at it and how you use it. So while we were presenting that piece, there was a gentleman in the audience that was actually an enthusiast of green spaces. And he asked specifically to the students, including myself, what was another project we wanted to work on. And we wanted to turn the vacant lot into a green space. Little did I know that gentleman was having a meeting with, at the time, Chris Coleman, the mayor of St. Paul, and they had eventually decided to push the idea of creating a green space in the community. That led me to speaking for the first time as a high school student at the city council on the need for this park space and how it can be a community-driven project. And through that, they actually awarded that project, and we are, after several years and $5.6 million, we were able to create Midway Peace Park, which was a community investment through a service learning, project-based learning initiative. So just like that opportunity was created from a community-based project in connection with school curriculum, there are so many more opportunities that our young people have amazing ideas on how they can uplift the community too. So thank you, and I yield my time.
And Mr. Chair, I mispronounced Ms. Hicks' first name. It's Shamika Hicks. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Shamika, and I'm a student at High School of Recording Arts, which is...
Shamika, can you use your last name too in your
I'm
introduction?
sorry.
So for the record.
You're totally fine. Well, my name is Shamika Hicks. I'm a student at High School of Recording Arts. I am currently a part of the service learning program at my school, and I'm just here to... Well, I'm here to give my advice of why I feel like it's important for more than just these 16 schools that are able to participate in the grant than just worldwide. I mean, not worldwide, statewide. I'm a little nervous. I'm sorry. But I feel like it's important because I feel like other students, not just me or the students I go to school with, should have an opportunity like this. I've joined this program September? So the beginning of September last year, and I definitely could say that it has opened up a lot of opportunities for me and my fellow classmates who are unable to make it here today, but I'm here for them. So I definitely do feel like it's important for the grant to increase, just not for finance reasons, just for I feel as it would be great if other students can participate and have the opportunities that I have been granted with this bill and this service learning.
Thank you, and thank you for coming. We love it when students testify, so thanks for taking time out of your day to come on down. Members, questions, comments? Well, I'll just add, thank you for this bill, Senator, and the mayor of Edina on Friday or Thursday of last week had a column in the Star Tribune, and his whole shtick in the article was the importance of us trying to do more for our citizens in the realm of relationships, purpose, and service. And he specifically mentions service again. I'll say that as maybe that's something we all need to get a little bit back to, and because it's does the heart good. So thank you for bringing this bill forward. We will be voting on sending it to Education Finance. So all those in favor of Senate File 2019 going to Ed Finance, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Next up is Senate File 2234, Senator Mann, and we'll be laying that over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. And while Senator Mann's collecting our thoughts, if we could have colleague Rogers Sophia Templos come up. They're the next two testifiers. And then, so thank you. Senator Mann, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. In 2022, the CDC reported the most overdose deaths ever recorded in a single year in the United States. We want kids to know what to do if and when this occurs. So Senate File 2234 requires the state well health standards currently under development by MDE to include overdose recognition, prevention, and response education. Very simple bill, Mr. Chair. With that, I'll kick it off to my testifiers.
Hello, Chair. Once again, this is Khalid Rogers, Executive Director of Catalyst for Systems Change. I'm just going to speak on the importance of opioid bill. So my work is rooted in lived experience. Having faced housing instability as a youth, through my journey, I saw firsthand the systemic issues that happen with young people and with families, especially around housing, education, and workforce development, and how these are deeply interconnected. Addressing these require a cross-sector, intergenerational approach that ensures young people are not just a part of the conversation, but are also helping lead the solutions. That's why I created the Changemakers program, a statewide initiative that equips youth with the skills and platforms to shape policies based off their lived experiences. And this particular Senate file is a direct result of that work. At our Changemakers event, youth across Minnesota identified overdose prevention education as their #1 priority. They researched the gaps in current health education and saw the consequences in their own community. They asked for a simple but powerful clarification of existing state law, ensuring that substance abuse education also includes overdose recognition, prevention, and response education. We are delighted that this effort has gained bipartisan support. This is more than just a clarification. It is a life-saving solution designed by those most affected. The youth who worked on this bill will share their research and personal stories, and we hope that their research and leadership garners your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Begin.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sophia Templos, and I'm a senior at the School of Environmental Studies in Apple Valley. I also work part-time as a nursing assistant. It is truly a privilege for me to bring this issue before you. 2 years ago, I experienced firsthand what it was like to watch a family's life fall apart because their loved one was taken away due to fentanyl poisoning. The worst part of this reality was knowing that this outcome was completely preventable. Referencing the monthly fatal overdose snapshot from the Minnesota Department of Health, there were 84 suspected Minnesotans that died from opioid-related overdoses in January 2025 compared to the 77 deaths in the previous year. This is a severe increase in just 1 year. Fentanyl itself is not typically sought out by its users, and as easy as it is to be unknowingly exposed to this, it's even easier to die. And fentanyl does not discriminate, it takes from everyone. One of Minnesota's most recent drug epidemic memorials, Gone in a Snap, which took place in August of last year, was dedicated to raising awareness on how easily fentanyl can be sold through social media platforms. Out of the 30-plus lives that were remembered that day, you would be surprised to learn how many of these individuals were surrounded by people who did not know how to use naloxone to save their lives. Naloxone is a life-saving tool that could have saved so many lives, lives that were so full of potential and lives so prematurely taken away. By educating our youth, we can ensure that in the event of an emergency, people will know what to do when an overdose occurs. We may not be able to stop fentanyl use entirely, but we as a community can start today by taking the next step to ensure that not another mother, father, sister, brother, or friend will have to live without their loved one who should still be with us today. Members of the committee, I call upon you to think about the people you care about and serve. I urge you to think about how much longer this will go on for and how much more of us will be lost if something does not change. I plead to you to take a stand today to ensure that more of us will see tomorrow, as we cannot afford to wait any longer. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Before we get the other two testifiers, anybody? Senator McQuaid?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Mann, for bringing this bill. Happy to be a co-author. And Sophia, I just want to thank you so much for coming to the committee and sharing such strong testimony. I think we see a pattern in this committee that, even when I served in the other body not that long ago, we did not see as much. And it is young people who are so incredibly knowledgeable about the circumstances of their lives and their experiences, and they're able to come to this committee and share them and urge us to make changes. And so I'm just blown away by their organization and their activism. I want to thank you for coming to the committee and the previous testifiers as well for speaking so clearly and so beautifully to the change that is needed.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you both testifiers. The next two up are Dexter Posh and Tom Kotke. Come on up and identify yourself.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairman and committee members. My name is Dexter Posh. I'm a junior at Harding Senior High School. I believe that this bill is crucial for the state because I am one of the people who live in a community where people are not taught about the severity of addiction or how to treat an overdose. And I live in a county where 121 people in 1 year have passed due to overdose. And I belong to a proud Native community where in 2021, 157 natives passed due to overdose. In the year followed, 167 passings. And the year after that, 155 more. And this isn't just happening to my communities. This is happening all over the state where yearly we have lost roughly 1,000 people a year to overdose. And already this year in Minnesota, we have lost 84 lives in January alone. So I believe if teaching this will save even a fraction of those people who passed, it will mean so much more to the friends and family who still have those people in their lives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Honorable Chair, members of the committee, members of the public, I am Thomas Kotke. I live in St. Paul, District 64A, and I have practiced cardiology for 40 years at the University of Minnesota, Mayo Clinic, Rochester, and Health Partners until I retired in December of 2024. During that time, I have also advocated for measures that improve community health because it is in this space that the greatest gains in health and well-being for individuals can be made, and a prosperous Minnesota depends on a healthy Minnesota. Today, I would like to endorse the student proposal to add 8 words as suggested in Senate File 2234. Those words follow the words, quote, substance abuse education, end quote, and add, quote, that includes overdose recognition, prevention, and response education, end quote. The latest Minnesota mortality statistics support the addition of this text. In the age 10 to 14 group, the total death rate is 16 per 100,000, and the rate of accidental poisoning is 1 per 100,000. While the term overdose is frequently used by the public, I'm going to stick with accidental poisoning, the medical term. By ages 20 to 34, the total death rate is 8-fold higher at 123 per 100,000, and 32% of all deaths are from accidental poisoning. The rate of accidental poisoning is 40-fold higher than in the 10 to 14 group. It shouldn't be this way. These are people in the prime of their life. They should be in the labor force, not in the ground. When an individual suffers an accidental poisoning, I believe that is rarely in the presence of a physician, a firefighter, a police officer, or another individual trained to treat the event. It is in the presence of peers and friends who could help if they had the knowledge and the tools. Today, the students are telling you that they want to help, and you can help them help by adding the text that will cause them to be trained in recognition, prevention, and response to accidental poisoning. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your commitment to the people of Minnesota.
Thank you. Members, Senator Kunish.
I just want to voice my support for this bill as well. I think when we have young folks, such as Dexter, and I don't know if you remember meeting me at the powwow. Dexter is an ROTC student, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep, and was a flag carrier at the powwow that honors the children. And so I just want to thank you once again, Dexter, for honoring the children, your classmates and the students and the young people in our society by coming here today and speaking your truth and sharing the really vital information, because we know that these addictions and the overdoses affect communities across the state, across the nation. And oftentimes we are creating laws or mandates that are there to protect people and protect our youth. And Senator Mann, I really appreciate you bringing this forward. Education is power, education is knowledge. And without this kind of education, the next generation is the one that suffers. So thank you very much, and thank you again, Dexter, for being here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Duckworth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. I'll be brief. This bill seems like it's pretty common sense. You know, oftentimes we have conversations about what we're going to require of districts and their opportunity to have a say or control of it. I think this is an example of one where a modest tweak or requirement makes a lot of sense. And these are the types of things I think we should look at and we do serve a purpose having conversations about. And I don't mean to derail the conversation. I don't mean this to be overly political. I'm not trying to reignite some sort of debate. But one of my concerns with Minnesota and legalizing marijuana the way that we have is that it's just going to be out there more. And the kids, through one way or another, whether they are exposed to it and then ultimately try something different, is a concern of mine. So I think educating them early and often about things that can happen or signs to look for is a good thing, as long as it deters what folks might do. In my capacity as a firefighter, we go on a lot of medical calls, and I can't tell you how many parents have told us that it started with something else, and then it ended up with them using something that was much more harmful. Too many of those types of calls. The statistics, the one you shared at the very beginning, Senator Mann, is extremely alarming. And so if we can help our kids become educated about this and prevent it or save lives if and when they find themselves in these situations, I think it's a good idea. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator Mann. To both, not to be dismissive of the doctor, but the two student testifiers, we love hearing from your point of view, because this is the Education Policy Committee and it's all about your education. And so we love hearing from you. So thank you. I hope next time you're before this body, you don't have to give statistics that you had to share with us. Hopefully it'll be something more.
Thank you.
Yeah, something, I don't know, somewhere over the rainbow. Anyways, thank you. Senator Mann, final thoughts?
Nope.
Okay. We'll be laying this bill over for possible inclusion in the omnibus policy bill. Is Senator Seeberger here? Senator Dibble, are you willing to go out of order? Okay, thank you. Next up, we'll skip the Senate file 1687 and bump, we'll do that after. So now up is Senator Dibble, Senate file 2685, and we will be laying this over as well for possible inclusion in the omnibus policy bill. Senator Dibble, whenever you're ready, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for the opportunity to present Senate file number 2685. I'd also like to thank my co-authors, Senators Wicklund, yourself, Mr. Chair, and Senator Housley. Mr. Chair and members, this bill is fairly simple, fairly straightforward. It has to do with requiring the Minnesota State High School League to provide greater levels of catastrophic insurance in terms of both amount and those kinds of things that are covered by their catastrophic insurance plan, as well as an attempt to remedy the circumstance that two past student athletes have situations that they have found they find themselves in today. But I'll start, Mr. Chair, just to provide a little bit of background about why we bring this bill to your committee here today. Many of you know the story of Jack Jablonski, who in 2011 suffered a debilitating injury while playing hockey for Benilde St. Margaret's against Wayzata, and how, of course, with the love of and support of family and community, he, since that time, has gone on to college and a career. He lives in the LA area. He works for the LA Kings. And it's an amazing story. Even through all of what he has been through and what his family has been through, he's persevered and is enjoying an amazing life. But what you maybe don't know about is the struggle he has had since that time. He has had a very, very difficult time, and his family's had a very, very difficult time in getting all the things that he needs to live that life that he enjoys. And they have been put to a great personal expense and a great deal of stress and demand on their times. He needs, of course, to outfit his home. He needs a specialized van. He needs physical therapy. He needs ongoing support. His parents, his dad in particular, goes out every year and spends an entire month to be able to give his PCA a break, and he helps Jack with what he needs. Fast forward to 2022, 11 years later, and we have the circumstance of Ethan Glynn, who was a freshman playing football and suffered a debilitating injury as well. And we have, of course, another amazing story of family and community and resilience. But unfortunately, he was a ninth grader at the time, and the catastrophic insurance didn't cover his circumstance. And they, of course, are facing the same kind of financial difficulties and demands on them, on their personal emotional tolls that the Jablonski family has. Both the Jablonskis are here, and Ethan Glynn's parents are here, and they'll be telling their story in a little bit more detail in just a moment. My constituent, Mike Jablonski, has done quite a bit of footwork, and he has shown that there are policies out there that to provide adequate coverage, both in terms of amount and what is covered. And also, we think that there might be enough resources that the State High School League could utilize to remedy kind of retroactively the circumstance of Ethan Glynn and Jack Jablonski. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to introduce Leslie and Mike Jablonski, who can tell a little bit of their story. Mike in particular, who's done quite a bit of research and advocacy on behalf of his son Jack over the years.
Thank you, Senator. Welcome to the committee, and begin your testimony.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Senators, for having us here today. In December of 2011...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you just identify yourself for the record?
My name is Michael Jablonski, Michael C. Jablonski, if you want to call it. In 2011, my son, Jack Jablonski, was injured in a hockey game. It was a catastrophic injury, and after that happened, he spent 3 months in a hospital. I went on a fact-finding mission, and I went out to Boston, and I met with a previous hockey player by the name of Travis Roy. Travis Roy played hockey at Boston University, and he was paralyzed in the first game of his career. He played on a team with head coach John Hines of the Minnesota Wild and assistant general manager Chris Callaher. We had a chance to do some fact-finding missions. It was a really great situation because people like my wife and I, we get thrown in these kind of situations, and there's really nobody out there. Okay, you can read books, you can look at videos, but that doesn't mean anything. So Travis Roy took me into his place. He showed how the therapy works, how the food works, how the caregivers work. It was really a great time. And later on, we went out for dinner, and we were sitting there talking, and he goes, "Hey, Mike, thank God for the sports world take care of us hockey guys." And he said, "Hey, by the way, I don't drink beer out of a straw. You have to pour it in my mouth." I'm like, "Okay, Travis." And I said, "Well, what do you mean by that, Travis?" And he goes, "Well, you know, Jack's got a $20 million policy, right?" And I go, "No, Travis, he has a $2 million policy from the Minnesota State High School League." And he goes, "Oh my God, Mike, your family will be financially ruined in the next 10 to 15 years. And Travis was right, okay? So after that, I came back to Minnesota. I tried to get a hold of the executive director, Dave Steed. You know, they don't return phone calls, they don't return emails. I finally got a hold of a gentleman named Craig Perry, and I explained the whole situation, repeated the story, and he kind of said, well, that's our policy, I got to go, bye. Never heard from anything, zero follow-up whatsoever. So that's one situation. About 8 years later, my son's van started falling apart. We got the first van when Jack was at the hospital in the ER from a very benevolent families that had hockey associations, so on and so forth. The Mutual of Omaha policy says you could have 10 years to get a van. When we applied for this, the van, they said, no, we rejected. Jack's not fully disabled. My son has had a caregiver for 10 years, 24/7, okay? So I was like, really? So I went to the Attorney General's office, and they kind of went through the motions, and they said, hey, there's nothing we can do, okay? I then went to the Department of Commerce office, and I said, could you help us out? And we had a really great investigator after everything was approved. His name was Bubba Aguirre. He worked endlessly for about 3 months. He tried to go to arbitration with Mutual of Omaha just to have us buy a van. Okay, this is in the policy. And he just said, no, they don't want to do anything. And I'm like, okay, strike one, strike two, strike three. I'm going to go talk to the Christopher Dana Reeve Foundation. What happens is when anything like this happens, they either talk to my wife, Leslie, how to take care of it, or they talk to the Reeve Foundation. There's a lady by the name of Bernadette Morrow, and she is kind of like, you could call her like the Kojak. She's seen everything for the last 25 years. She knows everything. She gets 50 of these calls like a month. And I asked her the situation, and she goes, hey, Mike, do you have Mutual of Omaha? Is your policy holder? And I go, yeah, it is Mutual of Omaha. She goes, oh, they do this all the time. They have like 5 or 6 states that they sell policies for, and then they deny all the claims, okay? And they do deny it. The only thing they've paid for is caregivers, okay, in our lives. And what they do is they have 5 or 6 states, they pay you all these, they deny all the claims, you got to go to court for them if you want to fight it. And then they use those resources to support the NCAA. And they have the NCAA policy. And they don't mess with the NCAA because, one, they're a monster, and also they're very profitable because I think the NCAA pays them $26 million a year, so they don't want to mess with something like that. So anyways, long story short is you have a very underfunded policy, okay? You have a bad policy. And third of all, you can make these changes, okay? If you look at my pamphlet, the resources are there, and it's a real simple situation. I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's about all I have to say. If you have any questions after my wife gets done, I'd be more than happy to address those. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Honorable Chairman and members of the Senate. My name is Leslie Cwodzinski. I am better known as Jack's mom. So as Mike said, you know, our lives changed in an instant. And, you know, when Jack's life changed, all of our lives changed. No family ever plans on a catastrophic injury happening to them. Nobody. I never walked into a hockey rink thinking something bad would happen. But on the afternoon of December 30th in 2011, something horrendous happened. There was Jack, checked from behind, went into the boards, could not get up. I thought maybe, you know, he had the wind knocked out of him. He's going to get up. Mike went out on the ice. I went out on the ice, and he just said, Mom, I can't move. I can't move my legs. Next thing you know, he's on a gurney, and we're running alongside him, being escorted out of the St. Louis Park Rec Center, and off we go to HCMC. And Jack was in the hospital there for the next 3 weeks, and then went to Sister Kenny for the next 3 months. You know, suddenly your son, who's an athlete who loves hockey, he loved hockey, he played tennis, baseball, golf. Now all of a sudden he's confined to a chair. And I'll never forget the morning after he was injured, Mike and I were in the hospital. And I was like, I need a Valium. Like, bring me to the ER, I need something, I'm a mess. We go down and a doctor said, I am so sorry to hear your son is a quadriplegic. That's the first time I ever heard the word quadriplegic and quad, and it was a gut punch. Then all of a sudden I knew this isn't going to get any better, this is only going to get worse. So, you know, here I started having panic attacks. How are we going to afford this? What are we going to do? I had a successful public relations business, which it just went suddenly stopped. That's it, I can't work. We went from a 2-income family to 1. with mounting medical costs. But maybe the day after that, the Benilde St. Margaret's principal and athletic director came to the hospital, and they wanted to talk to us. They wanted to see how Jack was doing, how were we doing. They wanted to assure us that Jack would be covered under the Minnesota State High School League catastrophic insurance. I was like, oh, thank God. And they said it was $2 million. Well, at the time, that sounded great. But then Mike, as you know, met with Travis, and we found out otherwise, that this was very inadequate. And probably soon after that, claims were getting denied. So let me tell you a little bit about paralysis. You see someone in a chair, but it's way more than losing the ability to walk. It's loss of muscle function, sensation, touch. You can't feel below the level of injury. In Jack's case, that means from the chest down. You can't regulate your temperature. That's why Jack is still living in California. You can't regulate blood pressure. You can't sweat. You're prone to injury, to infections and UTIs, hospital stays. But if you do therapy, that keeps you strong and healthy and out of the hospital. But Mutual of Omaha doesn't want to cover that. They think it's exercise. Living life as a quad requires constant caregiving. Imagine relying on somebody to be your able body. You can't shower by yourself. You can't get in and out of bed. You can't eat. Somebody has to help you with eating, with everything in your life. That's what the life is like for Jack. It's a reality, but it's also a very costly one. So when Jack was injured, we had to get used to the new normal. That was a term I hated, but it was true. Like, nothing in our life was like we knew it before. Nothing. We had to modify our home. Jack needed the van. His legs became a power wheelchair. We needed medical equipment. He can't sleep in a regular bed. It needs to be a medical bed because you'll get pressure sores. And if you get a pressure sore, you're down and out for months. They take forever to heal. They're very debilitating. Anyway, it's an endless list of medical needs, supplies, medications, caregivers, therapy. These are not luxuries. These are necessities. But Mutual of Omaha does not want to cover anything more than just caregiving. So as you know, paralysis is expensive. We're in the 13th year now since Jack was injured. We want him to live the best life possible, but it does come with increasing costs. You know, as I mentioned before, he needs rehab therapy. Well, he does it, but they won't pay for it. But it has kept him out of the hospital. It has kept him as healthy as possible. Every time Jack moves, we need to make sure that he's in an accessible apartment. That costs money. It's just, you know, after all of this and being declined a van, I worry every single day about Jack's safety. The doors fell off the van. If you open the side door on the back, you're never going to get it back on. Everything's rusty. I mean, it is downright dangerous, yet Mutual of Omaha will not cover it. And as Mike said, you need to be 100% disabled. Well, I would think, you know, being a quadriplegic is pretty much there. So we're here today just asking that this bill be pushed through so that we can have an adequate insurance policy. And I'm sad to say that this isn't just for Jack and Ethan Glynn. This is for the next family, and there will be more. We have a foundation, and I get calls whenever somebody else is injured with a spinal cord injury. And the first thing I ask them, if it was sports related, is, do you have a catastrophic insurance policy? I want to be able to assure them that they will be okay financially as they move forward in this new journey. So I thank you all so much for your time. Thank you, Senator Dibble, and thank you, members, for listening to our story and for understanding the importance of this bill.
We have two parent testifiers, members, but are there any questions specifically for the Jablonskis before we hear from the next parents? And maybe they're going to hold, or will, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we need to sign this?
We do have a Senator May Quaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank you both so much for being here, for sharing your story, for, you know, putting this into understandable terms for those of us who haven't been through this horrific process. And I also want to thank your son. He continues to be a leader, even, you know, after graduating from high school. And so I want to say thank you to all of you for continuing to just be fierce advocates in every way that you can be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to introduce Corey Glynn and Cassidy Durkin, who are Ethan Glynn's parents.
Identify yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Thank Thank you, Honorable Chair and committee members. I'm Corey Glenn. I'm Ethan Glenn's father. September of 2022, it started as any other normal day. He was going to his football game. We were getting ready. We actually had the truck packed to go to our cabin right after the game. I did photography for the team, so I was actually on the field when Ethan was injured. It was a typical play, 4th down. He made a tackle, and he didn't get up, so I was kind of waiting, thinking it was a stinger or something may have happened to him. But he didn't get up, so by the time I got to him, the words I heard was, "I can't feel my arms or legs." The next piece was a pretty big blur. We got an ambulance there, rushed him to HCMC. From there, over the next 5 days, he had 3 surgeries to repair his neck, to stabilize his spine. He was on feeding tubes, breathing tubes, with the risk of him never coming off a ventilator. He was at HCMC for just under a month, and then he was flown to Craig Hospital for the next 3 months, where he learned to rehab, learned his new life, and learned to come to terms with what his future is. Not only him, but our family as well. With an older brother, our family was splintered during this time. The older brother was a senior in high school, so I stayed back with him to keep him his senior year as normal as possible, and we saw each other when we could for the next 3 months. Finally bringing Ethan home right before the end of the year on 2022. Like the Jablonskis said, there's no handbook. You really kind of figure out as you go. You're drinking through a fire hose for years. We had to do the modifications to our home, so we had to move into apartments. Most apartment complexes, they'll do the minimum when it comes to ADA, which is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. We're a family of 4 with a dog, so we had to rent 2 apartments. That was for the year, on top of trying to change the house, remodel the house in order to make it adequate for Ethan. The financial cost of the Jablonskis brought up because Ethan was on an all 9th grade team, not a JV or a varsity team, but a 9th grade team. He did not qualify for the catastrophic insurance policy. 9th grade was not included in that. So all of our costs were out of pocket. It was, to get him airlifted to Colorado was, I think the price was $40,000. The $75,000 to $80,000 for a van. It's $60,000 for a chair. You have all the numbers and facts, but it hits families really hard. And the word catastrophic, it almost doesn't do it justice, because it affects everything about the family. It affects our relationships. It changes the way you look at everything. I drive much differently now if Ethan's in the van. And the changes that, we need made really kind of came to light when we got closer with the Jablonskis. We realized what their battle was too, and it was similar but different. And it's overdue. It's disappointing that it's 2.5 years post his injury and 13 years for Jack. And it really felt like there's been little urgency for change. So we needed to come to you fine folks and Senator Dibble and bring the government involved to make these necessary changes to ensure that this change leads to direct improvement for our Minnesota kids and families. Thank you for your time.
Hello, Honorable Chair and committee members. My name is Cassidy Dirk, and I'm Ethan Glenn's mom. My son Ethan was just a freshman. Sorry. Full of excitement and promise, playing the sport he loved. Like any parent, I cheered from the stands, not knowing in the blink of an eye my life would completely change. On September 2nd, 2022, terrible injury occurred on the football field, leaving Ethan paralyzed from the shoulders down. He is now a C4 quadriplegic that drives his chair with his mouth because he has no use or function below his shoulders. As if that wasn't enough, after enduring that, we soon learned that the Minnesota State High School League's catastrophic policy would not cover Ethan. If he had been on either a JV or varsity team, he would have been covered. But because he was on a freshman team, we were left to figure out things on our own. Ethan wore the same school colors, played with the same heart, and represented the very same school as the JV and varsity, Yes, yet he was denied the same protection as the other players. This really only impacts schools in the metro large enough to field a ninth grade team. I cannot explain the helplessness of watching your child fight through pain and uncertainty and loss, not just of mobility, but of dreams, independence, and the future he had envisioned. The cost of paralysis is much more than just medical bills. It's lifelong care, home modifications, specialized equipment, treatment, and of course, there's the ongoing emotional tolls. Corey, Ethan's brother Parker, and I provide round-the-clock care as Ethan cannot be left unattended. Just once in a day, think about how many times a day you touch your face because you have an eyelash or an itch or a crumb on your chin. Ethan is not able to do that on his own. He needs someone there to help him. Or children give their all to their sports, to their schools, and to their communities. It's time we give them the protection they deserve at every level and at every team. Members of the committee, I'm asking you, actually pleading with you, to try and fix this gap in coverage as well as the amount of coverage so that no other mother has to sit where I am sitting today. Because it's not a matter of if it happens, it's a matter of when it happens. Thank you.
Members? Okay, thank you. I think many of us are maybe perhaps speechless, so thank you for, it's sorry under the circumstances. I was almost ready to say it's good to see both of you again, but I don't know what to say. So thank you for coming in. Thank you for your due diligence. Thanks for not giving up on all of our student athletes that are to come, as you referenced. Thank you, Senator Dibble. We do have 4 testifiers as well, so if you guys could make it up to the table, 2 at a time, that'd be great. And then identify yourself and begin your testimony.
Hello, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Renee Cornet. I'm the superintendent of St. Anthony New Brighton Public Schools. Before I start my testimony, I would like to put into the space and honor the experiences of the 2 testifier families before us. What happened to those 2 families is in no way ever predicted, wanted, or encouraged. Our heart is out and our heart is felt for them along this way. As we start our testimony, we will be engaging in something that's a little bit more technical. I don't want that to in any way lose the perspective of what was before us. Thank you. Our high school in St. Anthony Village is a single A school with an enrollment of approximately 700 students. I am also the MASA, which is the Superintendent Association's representative on the Minnesota State High School League Board. I'm here to talk to you today about the Minnesota State High School League's purchase of insurance and urge you to not adopt this bill. As a superintendent, I have to approve a budget that our activities program can live with and that my school board will approve. To ensure activities are available for all students, we keep the fees low. The district contributes the difference. This allows more of our students to participate in the things that they're passionate about. As a board member of the Minnesota State High School League, we participate in that same process. The Minnesota State High School League Board reviews all aspects of the league's budget, and from the cost of the venues to the purchase of insurance covering our athletes. Last year, as a board, we adopted one of the largest expenditures for insurance in the history of the Minnesota State High School League. In fact, the cost of insurance is one of the largest expenditures in our budget. As you might expect, this is something that we pay close attention to when making budget decisions. The policy that we purchased in 24-25 cost in excess of $750,000. This is in addition to the other coverages that we purchased for concussion insurance and other medical insurances. We believe we purchased the best policy available in the market with an appropriate amount of coverage. The suggestion that the league and ultimately school districts will be responsible for reimbursement insurance expenses is something that we believe would be unprecedented. Ultimately, these costs would be passed on to our school districts and ultimately will impact children. 2 significant decisions were made last year. It would be cheaper to buy a 2 or a 3-year policy for our catastrophic insurance. Instead, we purchased a 1-year coverage so that we could be fiscally responsible and continue to explore options for obtaining better coverages if we can find them. At the time, the purchase information we had was that Mutual of Omaha policy was the best option. Indeed, as you will see, several other states purchased the same policy. We determined it was the best option to cover our students in Minnesota. It's important to note that not all activities are covered by the Minnesota State High School League. If the activity is not part of the league, it is not covered by our insurance. Last year, though, a huge decision was made to add 9th grade activities to the league. This required a vote by every member school, a vote that I am happy to say had a positive result. This had the effect of bringing an entire new group of students under our insurance coverage and a positive result, ultimately allowing for more opportunities for our students. We really appreciate the opportunity to discuss these issues with you, and we ask that you continue to allow decisions such as this to be made at the league level. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Keith Cornell, and I'm the Activities Director for St. Michael Albertville High School, home of the Knights. When I was asked to make this testimony, I don't think anyone knows, and I want to share my empathy and sympathy with the families, as my brother has been a quadriplegic since 1995, and I don't think anyone was aware of that when I was asked to make this testimony. St. Michael Albertville is a AA school with an enrollment of just over 2,200 students. We offer over 40 sports and activities on an annual basis with student participation of around 1,200 students. Our annual activities budget is around $1.25 million. I've been the activities director for 8 years. I'm a member of the State Activities Director Association, a statewide organization involving several hundred activities directors throughout the state of Minnesota, and I was humbled to accept the AD of the Year award in 2022. I'm the Region 5AA and 6AA representative to the Minnesota State High School League Board of Directors. Minnesota schools, activities directors, coaches, and the MSHSL are committed to the safety of students in our activities. This begins with best practices, coaches, trainers, rules, and a list of items too lengthy to mention here. As you know, participation in sports involves some risk of injury. Despite every careful best practice, every quality training, and the best coaching, injuries do occur. We use the MSHSL insurance to assist students and parents in circumstances when this happens. Other than the testimony you've heard here today, I'm unaware of any complaints regarding our insurance coverage. We've never had any at STMA, fortunately. It is important to review the insurance policy annually to purchase the best coverage that is available to our students and parents. These types of discussions today and awareness are valuable in making the right decisions for our students. The best place to make this decision is at the State High School League table. So the suggestion that somehow we didn't have the goal of purchasing the best policy available is simply inaccurate. That is always our goal, to do the best for our students. We are in the best position to take input from the member schools, activities directors, coaches, and parents. It is valuable to listen to parents and their experiences as well as to those of our extracurricular community. We need the flexibility and authority to gain information and make the decisions about appropriate insurance coverages. I am personally committed to all the students in all of our programs. My commitment is to do everything within my power to see that students have a positive experience. This is one of the reasons that I, along with others, serve on the State High School League Board of Directors. Thank you for your time, and we're willing to take any questions.
Members, any questions? Senator Kunish.
Thank you. Thank you. Just to get a ballpark idea, like what would it cost your school district to implement this bill? Like in real dollars, what kind of a difference would it make?
You want me to take that? There's already, you could consider it a cross-subsidy for our students to participate in all of their activities, right? So what the fees that are coming in will never cover all of those things. So I'm already, in my very small district, about $800,000 of a cross-subsidy to provide the 27 activities in athletics for our students. I would only assume that that would go up monumentally if we were to make this change, because the fee is going to come down to the districts, and that will go down to the students. Increase in fees, more of a cross-subsidy for us as a district.
Mm-hmm. Have you priced that out? Do you have an idea at all?
I do not at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. How about St.
I don't know, unfortunately, no.
Okay.
Certainly something we could look into, I'm sure, with assistance from the league.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Senator Makewaite.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of had a similar question to Senator Kunish, but I guess maybe one of the things I'm wondering is, we just heard from Ethan's family, and it sounds like if he had been injured like next year instead of 3 years ago, he would have been covered by the policy at the Minnesota State High School League?
That is correct.
Oof, that's hard. How does the fees to the Minnesota State High School League, how does that work? So how much does St. Anthony Village or St. Michael Albertville do you pay in dollars to the Minnesota State High School League?
I believe ours last year due to some credits because there's been pretty good success by some of our financial situation. 4 or 5 years ago, we were paying around $12,000 to $13,000. That is down, I think, around $1,500 last year. But the league was in a pretty tough situation coming out of COVID, like a lot of people were.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so as a board member, do you know what percentage of a fee from a district to the MSHSL is? Like if it's $1,500 from St. Michael Albertville to the Minnesota State High School League, what percentage that is for the insurance?
We do know our executive director will be up here in a few minutes, and I bet he would answer those more specifically in regards to the percentages. So I wouldn't want to misquote anything.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Congratulations on your recognition as athletic director. Those types of honorariums are always a breath of fresh air for the educators of the state. So congratulations for that. Next two testifiers.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and committee members. My name is Eric Martins, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Minnesota State High School League. Prior to serving in this position, I served as a teacher and a coach and a principal in 3 different school districts in Minnesota. Minnesota State High School League is a nonprofit organization of more than 600 member schools. The league governs 51 activity programs, including 44 sports, 5 fine arts, and 2 presenting partnerships, which engage 170,000 different students over the course of this past year in total. The league has provided insurance coverage for students in our activities for decades. Each time an activity is added, coverage is extended to the student participants who are in that activity. This year, the league welcomes boys volleyball. And as you are well aware, recently a vote was taken and our membership agreed to add 9th grade to a previously 10-12 organization. The league carries 3 different policies relative to students. The first one is a concussion insurance, which provides $25,000 for medical costs for any diagnosed concussion within our activities. The postseason tournament accident medical insurance covers the cost of medical care for any student in a postseason tournament, section, subsection, or state tournament, and that has a coverage of $50,000. And that makes sense because our catastrophic accident medical insurance has a deductible of $50,000, so an injury that would take place in any postseason would have those coverages for the deductible as well. And as you've heard, the maximum for our insurance for catastrophic accident medical was $2 million. It has recently risen to $3 million. In considering our insurance coverages, the league works to access the policies recognized as the strongest in the space for state associations. We've done a comparative of 12 different state associations in the upper Midwest, all those around us, and you'll be able to see the terms of those coverages, and those can be made available to you. In considering the 4 most impactful aspects of insurance, Minnesota trails only Kansas in terms of maximum benefits. They're currently at $5 million. We're at $3 million, and everyone else is at 3 or lower around the Midwest and generally across the nation as well. Like others in the grid, Minnesota has a lifetime term, and there are many that have a 10-year or even a 5 or 2-year term for their insurance. In regards to the deductible, I've already explained that at $50,000, that's covered for any one of our postseason situations, which then brings the deductible down to $100. Member schools are always able to purchase additional coverage for any activities, and in fact do so for many of the activities that they have that are not part of the Minnesota State High School League. Some of those include girls flag football currently happening, mountain biking, ultimate, et cetera, that are not activities that are sanctioned or part of the Minnesota State High School League. We continue to study our coverage level and work with the Board of Directors in determining the coverages each year, as you've heard before. And we remain open to further discussions and input from our schools, from students, from families, as to what those coverages should be. We thank you for the opportunity to testify here today and for your time.
Mr. Chair and members, I'm Roger Arntzen. I do legal and legislative work for the State High School League. A couple things to add to the testimony today. First of all, it's important to note that we're subject to the Data Practices Act, so we can't talk about any individual claims that might have been paid or denied, et cetera. What we do have, though, is the data over the last 20 years. We have paid $8 million in premiums in the last 20 years. There are $2.7 million that have been paid out by the Mutual of Omaha in benefits under those policies. And then as some of you may be aware, with reserves, the insurance company actually predicts that they're going to have to pay additional money on an existing claim. And currently there's $1.4 million in reserves on those, with a total exposure then of what they would describe as $4.1 million that are paid in claims. The bill itself has a provision in it that says, well, first of all, the bill says we should buy insurance, which we do. And it says we should cover student athletes and student managers and cheerleaders, which we do. It says we should buy insurance in a certain amount. We buy $3 million. The bill says $10 million. We think it's best that you let the board weigh that, what that number might be. We've had extensive discussions with Senator Dibble, with Senator Westlin, and with you. I think it may have gone by kind of quickly, but we made the decision to buy a one-year term policy last year, which renews on August 1, so that we could continue to discuss what is the appropriate amount. We didn't want to get locked in for another 12 or 24 months. This discussion has been a good one. It's had positive results. It's had some changes, resulted in the vote moving to add 9th grade as one of our activities. And we, in fact, moved up our overall coverage last year, and we would be talking about doing that again. The bill says that we would have to buy a policy that would not allow the denial of claims. I can tell you that we talked to our broker, and that type of policy does not exist in the market. So we could not do that under the bill. I'm not exactly sure what would happen. We probably would just continue to buy the same types of policies that we buy in the market in an attempt to cover students. This is an insurance bill. It says we should buy insurance. We are happy to continue the discussion about other potential insurers. As you heard earlier from Mr. Cwodzinski, Mutual Omaha also covers the NCAA. But I think what's important in these policies is to keep in mind there's a maximum amount of coverage, and those coverages are divided up into the provisions of transportation, health care, home attendance, et cetera, with certain amounts. But ultimately, the $2 million is going to get paid. That's what's going to come out of that. And with the policy that we currently have, that's going to move up to $3 million. So we think this is a really good discussion to have. These are tough issues with injured kids. They're just, they're just tough, and they are so sad, and our hearts go out to the families, and this has been a very respectful discussion, particularly with Senator Dibble, and we have really appreciated moving through this process and seeing what we can do to do better. All of our processes are open. We're subject to the open meeting law. We have public meetings, people that want to come in and talk to us about issues that they may have with the insurance company. We are a very open forum on that at any given time. And I know that Executive Director Martin has spent some time with the families on these matters as well, and we are doing everything that we can, I think, to move this insurance matter along. So, Mr. Chair, we'd answer any questions, and I think, Mr. Martins, we have some information on the cost to move to $5 million. I think Senator Kunish asked what would be the cost under the bill. The bill says $10 million. We don't have a number on 10, but $5 million would cost another $125,000. So it would move it up to about $875,000 for the annual policy on that. We don't actually know what the reimbursement claims are that are being requested here. If those are $1 million, $1.5 million, $500,000, we can't answer that piece of it. We don't know.
Members? I'm not sure in my 9 years I've been on such an intellectual and emotional roller coaster ride as this hearing today. And I don't know what to say other than know that. Mr. Aronson, Arnson. I appreciate that you said we're just trying to see if we can do better. And I guess that's what we can all try to do, is just see if we can do better. And I guess Senator Dibble, any closing comments? Oh. Before your closing statement, Senator Abler.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been taking this in, and it's just a horrible discussion to have to ever have. And thank you to the families, and I don't know, got nothing but words for you, and a hug if you want. But so I think the insurance question is a pragmatic one to have. That's just the business decision as a person who uses insurance all the time. There's medically covered things, there's some that aren't, and that's just, something to talk about. But on the rest of the bill, which is the awards, as a parent who had kids that were never catastrophically injured in their sports, we had some concussions and other things, but I think just as a parent, I think if you ask the Anoka-Ramsey Athletic Association parents, they'd say, like, I think we should help these families some way. And, if it's a few dollars, I just think that they would go like, yeah, that could have been my kid. And just to that part of the bill, I think that this is going to move somewhere, and I don't know what pot of money there is. But I just wanted to just say that to the families. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Bolden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My comments aren't necessarily so much to the substance of the bill, but to the families. Thank you for being here. I just want to say I see you. I know what it is to experience something similar to what you have. My son was in a catastrophic accident almost 3 years ago and is also quadriplegic. And so I know well the ramifications of that and the expenses of that and the challenges of that. And mostly I just want to say I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry that you are dealing with the incredibly difficult aftermath of that. And I'm sorry that our healthcare system is failing you and so many of us. I wish we didn't have to be here to have this bill. I wish we didn't have to have this conversation. I wish we had a healthcare system that was focused on making sure that people had the care that they need for their entire lifetimes. An accident that could happen any day to any family should not bankrupt families, and it does across this country and in our state all the time, and it doesn't have to be that way. So I implore us to work on a healthcare system that works and provides care to people that they need, and we don't have to have bills like this. Thank you.
Thanks. Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I almost don't know what to add after Senator Bolden's really amazing words. The thing I will add to that is I have so much loathing in my heart for insurance companies, because we're sitting here talking about how can we make an insurance company not deny the claims of a family whose child had a catastrophic incident. And then in an hour and a half, I'll be sitting where Senator Bolden will be sitting, and we'll be in Human Services, and we'll be talking more about families who have kids with disabilities and how they can't even get private health care insurance, and they have to go through the state, and then maybe we're going to have cuts to Medicaid, and what do we do? It is unacceptable. This is a system that is just completely unacceptable. And you have families that start there when their kid is born or sometime when they're young, and then you have families who end up there when their kids are in high school. And it's always unacceptable. And so, this conversation is just, it's so painful because it is that reminder over and over. Like, we could do this bill. We could. And then it's not going to change the fact that, in 10 years we could have another catastrophic injury. I really hope we never do. And then that family will be wondering, okay, but now what? What about the healthcare? What about the things my kid needs to live? Or a person has a kid born. And so it just is not going to change the system. And I think we should heed Senator Bolden's imploring to fix that. Because what I'm reading here, like this plea to pay out an insurance claim and have an insurance policy that can't deny coverage. Can you imagine? Wouldn't that be nice? So I just want to say thank you to the families for being here, and I'm so sorry what you're going through. You're a representation of all the things that are wrong with the way that we do healthcare in this country, and we're seeing it manifest in this way. And I think it's worth looking at, because anything that we can do to help is important, but the system change is what's going to fix it, so we don't have parents sitting before us making us cry in committee. Thank you.
Senator Dibble, closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate very much the opportunity to present this bill and the attention of the committee and the engagement of the committee. You know, I couldn't say it better than Senators May, Quaid, and Bolden. If you heard the testimony, both from the parents as well as the board members and the staff, we're having a discussion about economics, about dollars and cents, and we're not having a core discussion about the humanity behind what exactly we're struggling with, because we're trapped in a system not of our own creation here. And that's a system, of course, that's created by, profit-driven insurance companies that are denying claims, and making bad determinations on the level of disability that Jack Cwodzinski has suffered as a pretext and excuse to not buy him the van that he needs that is ostensibly covered under his insurance. So that's, of course, why we put that language in this bill, that these policies won't deny claims. Now, I don't disagree with Mr. Aronson. Maybe, insurance companies deny claims all the time. We hear about it in the news every single day, and the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical costs and health circumstances. But what we would like from the State High School League is better coverage and driving a better deal with their insurance companies, so they're not so easily denying claims of families that need it. And I respect that the State High School League wants to control this decision. That's logical. And I also need to recognize that they did renew last year for 1 year versus 2 or 3 or more years, so that they'd have more opportunity in this coming year to explore the products that are out there in the market. And they did move the insurance coverage down to the 9th grade level. Both of those, of course, leave the Jablonski and the Durkin-Glynn family to their own devices still, because I don't know if any of that can be retroactive. And I'll just conclude by saying that I do believe that there probably is more out there. I think Mr. Jablonski has done quite a bit of research. So I give the State High School League a lot of credit, but I also express a great deal of frustration that we don't have a solution in hand. And this conversation, has been ongoing for the Jablonskis for over 11 years. And you've been involved in this conversation with Senator Wicklund for well over a year, and we don't really see the solution yet. And a solution has to be found. This is unacceptable and untenable. We need to cover these kids to a level that they deserve and that should be available to us. So I do want to work on the systemic issues, but I want to get to a solution and drive this conversation forward. The bill might not be perfect as is. I appreciate the opportunity as it's being laid over to have more discussion about getting it right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. And we will be laying this over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. Senator Seeberger. Senator Seeberger, Senate File 1687, whenever you're ready, and I see you have 3 testifiers. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm proud to be here to present Senate File 1687 to the committee. This bill allows students in high school to self-carry Narcan with a parent's permission. That's all it does. The reason for this bill is that schools will have differing policies with regard to what students can and can't self-carry while they're on school grounds. A lot of times, students can't carry Advil, Tylenol, over-the-counter medications. In this case, it is imperative that students be allowed to self-carry with parental permission in grades 9 through 12, Narcan on their person. We know that fentanyl poisoning is happening at an unprecedented rate. I have folks here with me that will speak to the direct effects of experiencing a loss of a family member or a friend to fentanyl poisoning. I myself lost my nephew James at age 20 to fentanyl poisoning. It happens every day. As a paramedic, I see it every day. Narcan is a safe and effective drug to be used on people who are suspected with an opioid overdose. There is no known contraindication to using it if it's not an opioid overdose. You're not going to hurt somebody by giving them Narcan if they haven't had an opioid overdose. So that's all the bill does. It allows students to self-carry Narcan in schools with parental permission. With me here today is Bridget Noring. She is a constituent of mine and has a compelling story about losing her son Devin, but she has taken the pain of that loss and really turned it into some fierce advocacy to combat fentanyl poisoning within our state, and I'm proud to call her a constituent and a friend. And I also have Sophia Templos, who will talk about issues important to her, and there are 3 other testifiers. Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Noring.
Good afternoon, Sir Chair and committee members. My name is Bridget Noring. 5 years ago, on April 4th this year, I lost my 19-year-old son, Devin Noring, to fentanyl poisoning. One pill, one time, after a dealer was connected to him on Snapchat selling Percocet, a Percocet we believe Devin was seeking out to relieve pain from his dental pain. During the COVID lockdown, he had no access to care. One pill that contained enough fentanyl to kill multiple people killed my son instantly. So after Devin's passing, we began our mission of educating and raising awareness to the fentanyl poisoning epidemic that was silently poisoning unsuspecting teens, young adults, and adults alike in our small town of Hastings, Minnesota. A crisis, unfortunately, we knew nothing about until it was too late. We founded the Devin J. Noring Foundation several years ago to continue our mission. We know that drug poisonings are occurring in our schools across the state. We have been invited to schools throughout Minnesota to share Devin's story and to educate students about fentanyl, xylazine, and other emerging synthetic opioids, how their peers are getting in contact with it, and the role social media plays in this crisis, because that's huge to speak about. But the most important message that we share with our students and we educate them on is how to obtain Narcan, how to recognize the drug poisoning, and how to respond to that while waiting for paramedics to arrive. I'm here today in support of SF 1687. While our Narcan in schools bill was a huge win, we need to address the current issue at hand. You see, Senators, what we are seeing happening, our students that we are educating are having it taken away from school officials because it's still considered an over-the-counter medication. And that is bringing the students back to us, feeling upset, confused, and frustrated, like they're doing something wrong, even though I know it's something right. So in speaking with Senator Seeberger, I asked if we could fix this small but big issue. I thank you for introducing SF 1687. This bill would allow our students to carry this life-saving drug on them. Many of them know the understanding and the importance of it because they've lost someone, a friend, a family member. And we know seconds count in responding to drug poisonings, with students having ease of access to fake pills, vapes, and gummies, potentially containing a lethal dose of fentanyl, oftentimes sold on Snapchat. Time is literally of the essence. And if a student's able to administer Narcan to a fellow peer, potentially saving a life while waiting for school personnel to assist, as a parent of loss, I know if it were any of my children in that predicament, I would not have any issue having another peer administer Narcan to them. So I thank you for your time, and I want to thank the young adults here today speaking on behalf of SF 1687. I ask all of you to consider hearing their voices and pass this bill. Thank you.
State your name and go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon again. My name is Sophia Templos, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak once more. It is an honor to have an opportunity to take a stand at tackling this issue that is plaguing so many of us across the country each day. We can all take a look into our communities and agree that education is one of the most fundamental building blocks for our youth's futures. With that being said, it's imperative to take every opportunity possible to ensure academic safety. As important as it is to educate teens on how to correctly use naloxone, it is even more important to allow its usage. Opioid poisoning is currently the third highest cause of deaths in adolescents aged 13 to 17, according to a recent University of Minnesota studies. Within this age group are middle and high school students. Within this age group are children who cannot currently take action to protect themselves or others in their schools. What are the chances of opiate poisoning happening within these age groups in a school setting? And what are the chances of that occurrence being fatal? Is that worth the risk? Not allowing students to carry naloxone is allowing that chance to potentially take the life of yet another person who does not deserve it. We must take immediate action in ensuring that our youth have access to naloxone in the act of an emergency within school settings. I wholeheartedly extend my support to SF 1687 to allow students to carry naloxone in schools. This would inevitably protect students' friends, teachers, and other faculty members if given circumstances. It is a necessity that students have the ability to carry this life-saving tool on school grounds without repercussion. I cannot stress the importance of this within a short time period, but I can't say that we do not have the luxury of pushing this aside any farther. We must allow students to protect other students. Thank you.
Members, before we hear from the other two testifiers. Thank you both. There's two more student testifiers, I believe.
I think there's 3, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, you're right, there's 2.
This is an Algebra 2 day, so you're free. We are free to make
Okay.
that mistake in math.
I'm an English teacher, not a math. All right. Tell them your name and then go ahead and talk.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Mila Medell, and I'm 17 years old. I'm a student at North High School in North St. Paul. I stand here as a youth in the community to ask you to pass the bill number SF 1687 that can save lives. Fentanyl has affected my life in the following ways. 3 days ago, I lost my older cousin, Jacob. I also lost another one of my cousins, Paris, in 2023. I unfortunately also lost my Uncle Jonathan in 2022. This drug is wiping out people left and right. This is a picture of my dad. When I was 9 years old, I lost my father, Romel Medell. He was my best friend, the man who taught me how to love my other half. September 3rd was the worst day of my life. I never thought that I could feel such heartache and sadness as a child, but it felt like a piece of me was being taken that I would never get again. Now, 8 years later, I'm still grieving and still have a piece of me gone. Now, me and my brother will not have him to teach us how to drive, teach my brother how to tie his tie, or give me away at my wedding by walking me down the aisle. When I was a little girl, I didn't have him for the daddy-daughter dance or bring her dad to school day. And when everyone was writing letters to their dads on Father's Day, I didn't have one to give a letter to. Everyone has let this go too far, kept their heads down, and swept underneath the rug because your families may have not yet been affected personally, but there is still unfortunately a chance for your families to get affected. I am here standing in front of you today because my father, uncle, and cousins are not here with me anymore to make their own voices heard, but you will hear mine. Passing this bill will give me and my fellow student peers the opportunity to potentially save thousands of other families from the sorrow and grief I feel. I assure you drugs are in our schools, not only in high schools, but middle schools and elementary schools. I don't understand why students can't carry a life-saving medication at school if I can prevent the death from one of my fellow peers and save a family from the heartbreak that I feel. Senators, if it was your child, grandchild, niece, or nephew, wouldn't you want me to save them if they were overdosing on the bathroom floor? That is why it is important to pass this bill. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon, Senators. Hi, I'm Kamari York. I'm 17 years old, and I attend North High School in North St. Paul. And I'm here to advocate for a cause that has affected me personally and many kids my age. I'd like to start with a friend named Maxine who went by the name of Max. She was 13 years old when she overdosed and passed away. That was my first experience at a young age of 9. Of course, I didn't know what it was, but at the time, what I did know is that she lost her life at a young age from a thing called drugs. Years later, I realized what it was, and there's a lot of it around with easy access. Teenage fatalities have more than doubled in the last few years. About 22 high school-aged children die each week from overdose. Of course, nobody wants to believe that teenagers are able to get and want these dangerous drugs, but sadly, we know because we hear and see it every day. Today it's hard to find somebody who doesn't know someone that has died from an overdose. Narcan has no negative effects and will not harm someone if they're not overdosing on an opioid. It could be given safely to people of all ages, from elderly to babies to a teenager who may have unintentionally taken an opioid. At this point, what could possibly be wrong with teenagers carrying a safe object the size of the palm of their hand? You can't take too much of it, you can't get high off of it, and it could potentially save a teenager's life. Senators, I stand here before you asking you to pass this bill number SF1687 so I could save one of my fellow peers and if they are overdosing at my high school.
Thank you both. Is there another student testifier? Remote?
Hi, I'm online. Remote.
Yep, go ahead. Identify yourself.
All right. Good afternoon, Honorable Committee Chair and committee members. My name is Cecilia Guntapali, and I'm a junior at Westlin High School and a Minnesota Youth Council representative from Congressional District 3. I believe that allowing students to administer an opioid antagonist is an incredibly important ability. A few years ago, my grandmother passed away, and watching her in front of me, unable to do anything, was the worst feeling I've ever experienced. Just a couple years before that, we had a family friend over who had an allergic reaction, and I watched his body flare up, turning red, and began swelling. His breathing became frantic, and it was an incredibly nerve-wracking experience once again. I didn't know what to do. Thankfully, we were able to get him an EpiPen and administer it in time. As a high schooler, I look around my hallways of 4,000 students, and I know that most of us are capable of taking the right actions to save lives. And if we are given permission to carry and administer something that can save these lives, I personally believe that we should be able to do so. My 2 lived experiences show how in some situations we aren't able to do something and simply have to move forward. But in other situations, life-saving actions can be taken, and as such, no one should have to look at someone and feel like they can't do anything, especially when they know they could, if given the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, the three of you, the student testifiers. We, again, appreciate that you came in. Members, Senator Duckworth.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief because I know we still have some more work to do. Senator Seeberger, I think I heard one of your testifiers maybe mention that the experience in some school districts is they're not allowing students to carry this. Is that correct, or could you elaborate on that, please?
Mr. Chair, Senator Duckworth, that's correct. This bill is a product of necessity. There are school districts within my senatorial district that do not allow students to self-carry Narcan. While they may have it in the nurse's office, while teachers may have it, they don't allow students to self-carry it, and this bill would solve that problem.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I appreciate you elaborating on that. It's sort of hard to be critical of this idea other than the fact that we sort of have to admit that it's a sad state of affairs that it's necessary to have this conversation. The only thing that I can think of, but it sounds like it may not solve the problem, is that only in an instance in which a school doesn't supply this would they be required to allow students to carry this. But it sounds like you're saying that there are plenty of schools out there that do carry this, but also are still maybe not allowing students to do so. And maybe that's something that can help accomplish what it is you and many of these students are seeking to do, which is to ensure that someone at the school has the ability to administer it should it need to be able to. That's the only good faith constructive feedback I have for you regarding your bill. Thank you.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief. Perhaps Dr. Mann or any medical professional can answer this for me. I know you said that, if someone were to administer Narcan and somebody's not having a drug overdose, that they're going to be just fine. Does that hold true if somebody's having some other sort of medical episode? I know in one of my classes in high school, I was thinking of the kid who dropped with a seizure, and say a student misunderstood what was going on. Would that not have any impact as well? No, I'm seeing no. Okay, that was my only concern. And I want to echo Senator Duckworth's statements. I know, Mr. Chair, you and I get together in the interim and talk about our policies for the upcoming year, and I'm hoping that when we do so, this next go-around, we try to focus so much on the student experience, because when I'm hearing talk about drugs being in schools, and weapons being in schools, and fights being in schools, that, we kind of come forth with one of the best student experience bill packages that we've seen in a long time. So look forward to having those chats with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Seeberger. Again, the theme is I wished we didn't even have to hear from you on this, but we do, and it's reality. And I don't know if it's already been kind of a sad day today, but to hear a young student come in and testify that she'll never be able to have the father walk her down the aisle might be among the most heartfelt things I've heard in my time here at the Minnesota Senate. So, any final statements, Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Senator Mann knows, opioids stop you from breathing. Seconds count when you're not delivering oxygen to your body. If we know drugs are in schools, I wish they weren't, but they are. And we know that fentanyl is in everything. I wish it wasn't, but it is. If a student takes something at school that they think will help them stay awake, help them get through the day, and unfortunately it contains fentanyl, and another student is with them when they go down, seconds count. If they can administer that Narcan, go get help, run to the nurse's office, seconds count. If they don't have the Narcan and they have to go to the nurse's office and hope that they have it or run to the office, it may be too late for that student already. So Senator Duckworth, while I wish that we could identify ready resources of Narcan, unfortunately the fact is seconds do count. And if a student is there and can administer it, it's easy. A couple squirts up the nose, that's all you gotta do. If they can administer it, buy that student enough time until paramedics get there, we can save lives. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and thank you testifiers who will be laying this over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill.
Senator Cwodzinski, Senate File 2565 is before the committee. Feel free to begin your presentation.
I have the A1 amendment,
Great.
I think.
Yep, I see it. All those in favor of Senator Cwodzinski, who moves the A1 amendment, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The amendment is adopted. Senator Cwodzinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have some student testifiers. My eye is on the clock, so members, I hope I have 3 bills, and I hope they're pretty straightforward, so I'll limit my opening statement. But the Civic seal is basically a seal that will go into high school kids' diplomas that have stepped up in their sense of civic engagement and political efficacy and done things like was an election judge or really something above and beyond this, the curriculum of the average classroom. So just like having an NHS tassel or among the other awards that we bestow upon our students, the Civic Seal would simply be another way to honor our students and pay homage to their sense of civic engagement. So with that said, I have a number of testifiers, so thank you.
All right, Mary Jensen, you may introduce yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Mary Jensen. I'm a junior here in St. Paul, and I'm here today to ask for your support in establishing a Minnesota Civic Seal. This would be an initiative that would recognize students who demonstrate civic engagement and encourage others to find their voices in shaping our communities. But first, I want to tell you a short story of why I'm fighting so hard for this bill. When I was 7 years old, I was playing outside during recess with my friends, building a fort in the snow. It was ours, something we had collectively built together. However, suddenly, older kids started to crowd us out until I was the only one left. I remember thinking that this wasn't right and I wouldn't let someone push me out of something that belongs to all of us. So I stood up and I used my voice, asking them to leave. At first, it was just one boy, then 3 others. Soon, the situation had escalated, and before I knew it, one of the boys had grabbed me in a chokehold. I was shocked and I was silenced. But then I fought back. I kicked him as hard as I could, and I fell. I remember lying there in fear, but in that moment, I learned something crucial, that using your voice isn't always easy. Sometimes speaking up can come with consequences. However, we need more people to fight. Today, 2/3 of young people believe our country is more divided than ever, and the majority of young people don't trust major institutions or even their fellow members of society. But the solution isn't silence, it's action. That's why I believe the Minnesota Civic Seal is so important. It would recognize and encourage students who go above and beyond in their civic engagement, whether that's volunteering, advocating, or participating in our local government. As a future leader, I know the importance of being prepared to participate in our democracy. That's why I believe every high school student deserves the tools to engage meaningfully with the issues that affect them. A civic seal would be a clear, visible recognition of a student's dedication to civic participation and would encourage others to get involved too. It would help foster a culture of engagement in our schools, motivating students to not just learn about civics, but to also actively practice it. I hope you agree as well and support the establishment of a Minnesota Civic Seal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Daniel Tolson, you may introduce yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Chair and members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Daniel Tolson. I'm an 11th grade student at Cretin-Derham Hall in St. Paul. I'm here today to support the establishment of the Minnesota Civic Seal, a program that recognizes not only academic achievements, but also the importance of civic engagement in shaping our understanding of the world. For young people today, the world can feel chaotic. From global events, news can feel misleading, social media can be confusing, and it can be difficult to know where we fit into it all. That's where civics comes in. It's the structure that helps us make sense of the world, the set of norms and rules that guide our interactions with each other. Civics provides a framework that empowers us to understand our society. As a leader of debate club at my school, I've learned how important it is to have a sense of order. In debate, we don't just argue. We follow rules, structure our arguments, and respect the perspective of others. This structure is what turns chaos into something productive. It's what allows us to find common ground even when we disagree. In the debate club, I get to help others find their voice, articulate their ideas, and argue respectfully. This, to me, is what civics is all about. Creating an environment where everyone has the tools to use their voice and shape our future. A place to express and even find your passion. For me, I found my passion about law. Now, does some of that passion come from the cheesy TV shows? Maybe just a little. But the real reason for my interest is driven by the same desire to understand and organize the chaos of the world. Whether it's through the rules in the courtroom or the regulations that govern our society, I see law as the backbone of how we make sense of the world around us. As I continue my civic journey, I know that understanding society and how to navigate its complexities is key in creating a more just world. This is why I believe the Minnesota Civic Seal is such an important initiative. It's not just about recognizing academic achievements. It's about acknowledging the ways in which students are already engaging with their communities and shaping the world around them. The Civic Seal would highlight the importance of involvement beyond the classroom, encouraging students to participate in extracurricular activities and pursue careers that contribute to the betterment of their communities. It would give students like me the motivation to keep learning, growing, and applying our skills into real-world contexts. The Civic Seal also sends a message that we have a role to play in solving the challenges we face as a society. One of my roles in debate, aside from getting to tell people to stay on task, which is always a plus, is seeing how this kind of engagement can transform the way we think and interact with each other. By recognizing everyone's contributions, we can build a stronger, more engaged, and more collaborative society. Every voice is heard, and a society where everyone is motivated to make a difference. Thank you for supporting this important initiative, and thank you for your time.
Thank you both so much for your testimony. The next two testifiers we have are Blaze Lamb and Ron Hustvedt. If you could come to the testifying table, both of you. And Blaze, you may introduce yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. My name is Blaze Lamb, and I am a sophomore at Hastings High School. I'm a part of a team of over 40 dedicated student leaders advocating for the creation of the Minnesota Civic Seal. This program aims to inspire students to actively engage in their communities while fostering essential skills such as communication, collaboration, and mentorship. I believe the Civic Seal will not only empower young people to contribute meaningfully to society, but also help them develop the tools necessary for both personal and professional success. In my experience, whether on the trap shooting team or at my internship at the sheriff's office, effective communication and mentorship have played a key role in my development. As a member of the trap shooting team, I've seen firsthand how mentorship from older shooters can transform the way we approach the sport. More experienced shooters encourage the younger ones to move faster, focus better, and fine-tune their techniques. They don't just give us instructions, they offer us guidance, constructive criticism, and real-time feedback that pushes us to improve, and they do it in a way that builds trust and respect. Similarly, in my internship at the sheriff's office, I've learned the value of constructive criticism from the officers I work with. They just don't point something out. They point out what went wrong. They take the time to explain how I can do better, offering clear and actionable feedback. And this is a kind of mentorship rooted in communication. This kind of mentorship rooted in communication helps me grow as an individual and as a future law enforcement officer. The officers I work with have taught me that good communication is key to building strong, positive relationships with the community, whether it's with fellow officers or others. This is why I'm so passionate about Minnesota Civic Seal. It represents more than just the recognition for civic engagement. It's a tool for fostering the kind of mentorship and communication that we need in our communities. Through the Civic Seal, students who have demonstrated dedication to their communities would be acknowledged, but more importantly, they would be encouraged to continue growing and learning from those who came before them. Just as older trap shooters guide the younger ones, the Civic Seal would encourage older students to mentor the younger students, helping them learn how to communicate effectively, solve problems, as well as making their voices heard. When I tell my peers I want to be a law enforcement officer, I'm often met with raised eyebrows and skepticism. I know how important it is to change public perceptions of police officers and to build a better relationship between the law enforcement and communities. Effective communication is the foundation of that change, and civic engagement is the practice by which that communication comes to life. By proactively engaging with the community, listening to concerns, and addressing them through clear and open dialogue, we can build trust. The Minnesota Civic Seal would give students the opportunity to develop the skills that they need to make that change, whether through participating in local government, engaging in volunteer work, or getting involved in social issues. It would encourage students to not only communicate more effectively, but also seek out mentors who can help them grow and succeed. By fostering these skills early, we can create a more engaged, collaborative society where communication isn't just a skill, but a tool for positive change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blaze. Ron Hustvedt, please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin your testimony. We're coming up towards the end of committee, so if you can just keep it to things that might not have been mentioned already.
Sounds good. I will definitely do that. Honorable Chair, committee members, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm a middle school, social studies teacher in the Elk River District. My name is Ron Hustvedt. I'm also a board member for the Minnesota Council for Social Studies. And I've received numerous state and national awards for my teaching. This is my 27th year of teaching, and I still really much love doing it. I've taught in Elk River, in Minneapolis. I've taught high school and middle school, and I've also teach at several different colleges and have lots of professional conversations with teachers around the state. Just want to give you that quick teacher perspective. Having that big step that we took before with requiring a civics course in high school for 11th and 12th graders, as we've seen here today, civics is not just about requiring a civics course. It's about gaining important knowledge in the structures and procedures of government. You have to experience it to appreciate it, and you need to step outside the classroom to better understand it and see it firsthand. And when we get students, whether they're testifying here at a committee hearing or getting involved in their local, tribal, state national levels of government involved in it. That makes for a more healthy community, healthy people. It's life skills, it's civic skills, and it makes for a stronger workforce, stronger communities, stronger individuals. And I think just from the teacher perspective, this is something that is not a lot of extra effort or hassle on the school side of things, but it really incentivizes, like I said, students getting involved and participating more in their communities. And when you get students participating and when you get students getting involved in these kinds of things, it gets other students more excited and interested. And that's something that definitely our state, our democracy needs more young people getting involved. And that's something, as a middle school teacher, my 7th graders, we do this. We can look around our community of Elk River. Students have met with the mayor, they've met with the city council, they've met with the sheriff. There's several intersections where there's crosswalks, and I know that students of mine helped get there. We have a skate park in town that many years ago, students were the ones who really were some of the reasons behind that. And then we see students, like a former student of mine is one of your Senate pages here. So I think what we can do, if we can offer something like putting a seal on their certificate when they graduate, it's a fantastic incentive for great work that young people are doing.
Thank you. Senator Cwodzinski, any closing remarks?
No.
Great.
Yeah, it gives the kids the tools they need and the recognition they deserve. Thank you.
All right, members, the intention is to pass this on to Education Finance. Senator Abler moves that Senate File 2565 as amended be recommended to pass and be referred to the Committee on Education Finance. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Senate File 2565 as amended is on to Education Finance. Senator Cwodzinski to Senate File 2412.
It's the charter school bill, and I think I'll have my testifier answer everything, but most of the things in this bill are a direct result of listening to the 3-part series the Star Tribune did and trying to take action on some of their insights and observations they made, and the charter schools have been very supportive and we've worked well with them.
Thank you. Senator Cwodzinski, would you like to move the A1 amendment?
I would. Thank you.
All those in favor of the A1 amendment say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The A1 is adopted. Senator Cwodzinski, you have a testifier or someone here to answer questions? Joy Chenian, introduce yourself for the record and briefly give your testimony.
Thank you very much, and I know time is short, so I'll be reading quickly. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Joey Chenian. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Association of Charter Schools. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. Charter public schools are tuition-free, independent public schools that welcome all students regardless of ability or need. This bill is about charter school boards. Charter school boards in Minnesota are made up of volunteers. Board members cannot receive any payment or compensation, and Statute 10A-071 also currently prohibits them from accepting gifts. Board members are elected through a public election process, and only teachers, parents, or community members, each with specific statutory qualifications, can serve. All charter schools must define the board's composition in their bylaws. Many operate with a teacher majority board, a unique feature in Minnesota's charter school law compared to other states. We strongly believe that all charter schools must be accountable, transparent, and held to high standards, and our community is committed to proactively addressing challenges and improving governance. This bill presented today builds on bipartisan reforms passed in the last biennium, intending to improve board transparency and financial and governance effectiveness, which are currently being implemented across the state. Those laws we passed clarified board structure and eligibility, improved election transparency, required a nepotism policy, strengthened conflict of interest provisions, and mandated pre-service training for new board members and ongoing training on finance and management, student achievement, and a whole host of issues. Each board's training and performance evaluation is now publicly reported in the school's annual report. These reforms are now also supported by a multi-year research project on charter school boards funded by a national CSP grant from the Minnesota Department of Education and awarded to the University of Minnesota. Over the next 3 years, it will be taking place, and once complete, it will provide additional legislative recommendations in an effort to strengthen board effectiveness and support long-term success. One of the ongoing challenges we face in Minnesota, especially in our rural schools, is finding individuals willing to serve on volunteer boards. In this context, we support efforts to improve accountability and transparency, and as as reforms are considered, we ask that they continue to be crafted in a way that upholds accountability without creating unintended barriers to volunteer service in our communities. We respectfully appreciate the small amendment to this bill and look forward to continued bipartisan collaboration with the legislature to strengthen our state's unique and innovative charter school law.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
Madam Chair.
Senator Mann.
I don't have a question to the bill, Madam Chair. I just wanted to give a shout out to the entire row of Edina students that are here today in the committee.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. What is the mascot? Or what do they call themselves?
The Hornets.
The Hornets. Thanks for being here, Hornets. Members, other questions? Senator Cwodzinski, I did have a quick question. The change here, it has to be, something has to be filed within 14 days. Am I reading that correctly, or am I wrong?
Can you cite the line, please? In the amendment or the original bill?
Mr. Cheney?
Yep, thank you. In this bill, it talks about schools filing different types of things for school leaders and for charter school board members that are currently required under law. And in that case, it's talking about the individual running for a charter school board has to file it 14 days before there's an election.
Thank you. Is that before voting begins or before election day?
So,
Mr. Cheney, yes, go ahead.
Madam Chair, so this is a statement of economic interest, and it says, in the case of an individual running for a charter school board, at least 14 days before the election. So the election needs to take place during the school year, so it needs to take place during the school day, so it'd be 14 days before that.
Thank you. I think my question is just about early voting. You know, early voting starts well more than 14 days before an election, and so I'm just wondering about people who might have voted and not had access to that form. But that might be a question for the Elections Committee. Any other member comments or questions? Senator Cwodzinski.
Thank you. I just want to thank the charter schools again for agreeing to having more transparency and accountability, and it's a win-win situation. So thank you for hearing the bill.
Thank you. And with that, Senate File 2412 is recommended to pass and be sent to the Committee on Elections. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Senate File 2412 as amended is on its way to elections. Senator Cwodzinski, what would you like to do with your last bill here?
Hear it.
Okay. Senate File 2882.
So,
Senator Cwodzinski.
and I have the A1 amendment.
Okay. Senator Cwodzinski moves the A1 amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The amendment is adopted. Senator Cwodzinski, to your bill.
Yeah, and what this bill does, we met a dozen times over the summer, a bipartisan LCC committee with Senator Kunish and I, and two House members, a Republican and a Democrat. And we talked to kids and counties, and we're just trying to get a handle on excessive absenteeism and attendance and trying to get things right. And to Senator Coleman's point, I don't know if this bill is a baby step in trying to figure this thing out, but it's a step in the right direction, I believe. And so I just hope we can pass this bill and get it going and have the conversation continue. And as we wind down, I just want to thank the members for staying a few minutes over today, and I apologize for that, because those of you that know me know I'm kind of a stickler for time. And so thanks for, and if any of you have any questions after you look at materials in the packet and whatnot, please feel free to come see me about something that was in one of these bills that we kind of hurried through the process so that we can, I can answer your questions if you have any, but we do have one testifier.
Mr. Chair, I see two testifiers on this list, Nick Nigro and Matt Shaver. If you both want to come to the testifying table and be, yep. Okay, just Matt Shaver.
I think there's like 4 of us, but.
Oh, there's many testifiers, actually, it looks like.
There's a bad
side. Oh, Senator Cwodzinski. Okay, here we go.
I apologize, I wasn't aware of that, so.
Yeah, it looks like you have 4 or 3. Mr. Shaver, introduce yourself for the record. You may begin your testimony.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Matt Shaver. I'm the Senior Policy Director at Ed Allies. We're education advocates for kids. Trying to be sensitive to time, I will be very, very brief. Couple numbers I'd ask folks to potentially write down in the room. 25.5, 199,185, 3.1, and 16. Okay? 25.5 is the percentage of students in Minnesota who are chronically absent in the most recent year that we have data. 199,185 is the total number of Minnesota students who are chronically absent in 1 year. 3.1 is 3.1 million combined days of school that students were chronically absent in that one school year. And 16 is the 16 million combined hours of instruction that chronically absent students missed at a minimum in one school year. Handout, I'll get y'all later, that shows in your local community and district schools the minimum number of combined hours of instruction that students in your community who are chronically absent missed in 1 year. Don't use the word crisis lightly, but we have an attendance crisis in Minnesota. The policies before you are an attempt to provide a better response to an absenteeism crisis that we're seeing, that our attendance rates have doubled since the pre-pandemic to where we are now. And I want to be really clear that the policies that are here and much of what's been proposed this session are about coordinating a better response, a more cohesive response to the attendance challenges that we're seeing statewide. A preventative response would go well beyond what we do in the K-12 committee. It would touch on transportation, housing, health and human services, taxes, and on and on and on. But what we can do right now in the meantime is what's in this bill. No-cost policies that help provide a better response to absenteeism, break down those silos that we see between the school, the district, and the state. So I want to just highlight very, very briefly a couple spots in this bill, what it does, what it's there for, and then I'll pass it off to some other colleagues who've been working on this as well. So lines 1.6 through 1.8, this just gets rid of some old language about school board members taking attendance for the district and replacing it with school officials and then those who are designated by the principal to do that. The idea behind this is that we want families to be able to have go-to folks within the school and within the district that they have built good relationships with so that absences can be tracked better. So that, you know, whether it's the school counselor, the nurse, whomever can take that call from that family if a student's going to miss. So we have fewer unexcused absences and better touch points with the school. So that's 1.6 through 1.8. And then on the next page, 2.8 through 2.13. This, and you know, you might be asking yourself, we really got to define this? And the answer is, I think so. This defines a day of attendance is if a student is with a paid employee of the district, okay? This language comes directly from guidance provided by the Department of Education that a student who is with an employee of the district is in attendance for the purpose of that day. So an example of this is students who are on a debate field trip or a debate tournament, they shouldn't be marked as tardy or missing a part of the day. They are with an employee. A student who is missing some class time because they have a meeting with a social worker, they shouldn't be counted as partially absent for the day. We need to codify this into law because districts throughout the state code absences, tardies, excused, unexcused completely differently, meaning we don't have apples to apples, district to district data, making the data extremely noisy. This would set a minimum floor to help us understand where the actual problem spots are. So that's 2.8 through 2.13. And then I'm going to give you this last one, 3.3 through 3.32. This would just add for those MCA reports that go home to families in the fall every year, just a line about the students' consistent attendance data. So academic outcomes with attendance. And that's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shaver. Next, we have Ashley Hightower. Introduce yourself for the record. You may begin your testimony.
Yes, thank you, committee members and Chair Cwodzinski. My name is Ashley Hightower. I'm with Hennepin County's Be at School program. We are Minnesota's largest truancy and neglect reporting program. Just to put that in perspective, on average, we receive around 10,000 referrals a year. Right now, we're at 7,161. I'm just going to summarize here, but really what I want to bring to your attention is the inconsistency we're seeing around statute 260C.163, subdivision 11. It's the presumption regarding truancy on ed neglect. Right now, the statute is creating significant inequalities of how interventions are being implemented at the county level. So right now, the law presumes that a child's absent from school is the caretaker's responsibility if the child is 12 and under. Sorry, the child is under 12, and the school has made appropriate efforts to resolve the child's attendance problem. But once the child turns 12, the absence is presumed to be the child's intent, with no mention of school efforts to resolve the attendance problems. The different responses per age raise concern about equity, systematic fairness, and effectiveness of intervention. So basically what's happening is a child protection response or a truancy response. But we're also assuming children 12 to 17 are intending to miss school and ignoring the barriers they may face, setting them up for failure, prompting a punitive approach, and placing the blame squarely on that child. Punitive repercussions that do little to address the root causes of absenteeism. This practice is criminalizing truancy and just really failing to get that student's educational engagement. It can have long-term consequences, including very early entry into the juvenile system. Revisiting these statutes to better reflect the needs of students can lead to more appropriate, compassionate, and less punitive approaches to address the underlying barriers of truancy. I'm also going to recognize that in reviewing our Minnesota student survey reports taken by our 5th, 8th, 9th, and 11th graders, specifically the question asked time away from class, our 5th graders reported that they weren't getting enough sleep as their #1 reason they missed school. Our 8th graders scored highest out of all grade levels of missing the bus and not having a way to get to school. Our 9th graders scored highest on not feeling safe at school and having to take care of family members, siblings, or friends. And our 11th graders scored highest out of all the grade levels of feeling sad, hopelessness, anxious, stressed, or angry, behind in schoolwork, or not prepared to take a test, and bored or not interested in school. These results reported by our students shouldn't be an result of a truancy court intervention.
If there's like a final sentence or two you want to say.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is Michael Rodriguez here? Okay.
I do see after I flipped the page over, I did have 2 more testifiers in this, so thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Rodriguez, if I can get you to 2 minutes.
60 seconds.
Oh, great. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I am Michael Rodriguez, Dean of the College of Education and Human Development at the University of Minnesota. I've heard Representative Bakeberg make a claim in talking about chronic absenteeism. Students who are chronically absent find what they're learning in school less relevant. So I dug into the Minnesota Student Survey data myself, the most recent data. Not only do they find what they're learning in school less useful to them now and in the future, but they are different in many ways. So I wrote a quick summary that describes how these students are different from those that do not miss school. And it includes everything from their grades to college aspirations, commitment to learning. The issue of absenteeism really needs to be addressed from all sides, and this is one of them, and I am happy to support that. So I hope the summary is clear to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Members' questions. Senator Abler.
Well, thanks. I wish we had time to talk about the county involvement with truancy and child protection and so on. This topic really is in a different committee, the Health Committee. And I think there's a piece of this it might be an unintended consequence where you're going to get more kids into child protection with well-intended parents who didn't really plan to get there. And I appreciate the intent. But I think you want to see if Senator Wicklund is interested in this, because this is going to broaden out those people who are subject to a visit from the county because now they're suddenly in charge. And so I mean, it's not a minor change. And we don't have enough county protection or children child protection workers already, and that whole thing is a morass. The other thing, I wish we had more time on this bill. The other thing that I noticed, I'm not sure it's written quite correctly on line 2.8 to 10, that a student's counted that a school employee is paid to supervise or provide services. That's every student in school. So I think you might want to describe that you're talking something specialized, like there's a teacher there, there's a coach, hey, there. So I don't think it says what you intend. So you might want to work on that language just to make sure you're talking about specialized services or something like that, where they actually are receiving the specialized services. This is as if they were there, they're counted as present, which I don't think you meant. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Abler, and in a truly fascinating turn of events, those were my identical comments, Senator Cwodzinski, both about counties and CPS and both about the definition, which I think what you're getting at there is good, but I think the way it's written is a little it's not as clear as what the intent is. Any other member questions, comments? Okay. The intention is to send Senate File 2882 to Education Finance. And I would be interested in maybe a county fiscal note on this too, Mr. Chair. And with that, all those in favor of sending Senate File 2882 as amended to the Committee on Education Finance, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, Senate File 2882 as amended is on its way to Education Finance. Members, that concludes our business for today. We will be hearing on Wednesday the walkthrough of the committee omnibus and taking testimony. This committee is adjourned.